Sandra all the time is here with the cold hard truth. She's the ears and the eyes for me and you. Every day, everyone want to hear from Sandra. And every time on the air, she's getting better. Tell your sister, tell your brother, tell your mama to call Sandra in the morning and in the evening. They always calling Sandra. And when they start fighting, they calling Sandra.
That's right, folks. Everyone is telling their mama about the cold hard truth. Welcome to another episode with more truth-telling, more problem-solving, and of course, more tea spilling than ever before. Sit back, students, grab your tea and turn up the volume because class is now in session. Call in at 936-2626 because your voice matters. Share your opinion on issues that matter the most to you. Good morning, K-Man. Happy Monday. How's everybody doing this beautiful Monday morning? Hope you guys are doing well. Welcome to the program. Welcome to the Cold Hard Truth. I spent some time over the weekend trying to, between yesterday and today, get some work done. I was starting to feel a little bit better. A lot better compared to Thursday for sure. Still having some pain, trying to get through it. it was interesting because the other day when I said to Dr. Benoit, when he said, come in and see the orthopedic surgeon, let's make sure that everything's okay. And I said to him, my gosh, I am going to try to grin and bear it because the orthopedic specialist was actually he was in surgery most of the day. And I said, oh yeah, I'm trying to grin and bear the pain. Dr. Benoit said, no. When pain is this chronic, you shouldn't have to grin and bear it. So he said, come on in, we'll help you with the pain until he can see you. And my goodness, it was really, really severe. It turns out that it was just I just slept bad on it. But, we've all done that in our lifetime before. But the level of pain associated with this instance of sleeping bad was like next level. It was different, certainly, than anything I had ever experienced before. So I'm happy to say the pain, as the doctor indicated, would start to subside over time. But I'm also going to get some acupuncture done today to hopefully help as well. So, it's still there. And the pain meds that they gave me, man, those things are next level. I took it for one day and I couldn't, they made me feel all kind of strange. And I was like, yeah, I'll just take some Advil. So, some pain meds, this one has like 3 different things in it. And I don't know if it's the mixture of one or multiple of those things that makes me feel really a bit off. So at this stage, I can grin and bear it a little bit because I can kind of rub the area. I can put the topical rub on, which I forgot to do last night. So I can kind of do those things. Still in pain, but it's not that sharp, acute pain that I had last week, Thursday, when I woke up. So, the thing is, it's like in the neck, but then it goes into the base of the head as well. So it's pretty crazy. But good morning to Miss Evelyn. We're still thankful, still giving thanks that we can even get up. Because trust me when I tell you, there's a lot of people this morning who did not wake up, even over the weekend. We want to send out our condolences to the family and his wife in particular, Mr. J.C. Calhoun. I think many of you saw on our news platform that unfortunately he passed away over the weekend. So quite a sad situation there. We all have to go that route at some point, but he, by all accounts, was such a nice person and actually gave a lot to this community. So he was one of those individuals that, yes, he came here, I think, in 1979, worked for Mr. Jim Bodden in real estate initially, and accomplished a lot for himself, but also gave back a lot to the community as well. So Cereba has issued a statement in relation to his passing. He was a Cereba member, and also he's one of the founding members of Cereba, the real estate organization, and also owned his own real estate company. So, just a sad situation. But he had a 44-year real estate career here in the Cayman Islands after moving from New York, I believe. All right, folks, Coldwell Banker, and most of you will know that he, became the owner and broker of Coldwell Banker. So condolences to all of his work colleagues, as well as obviously his family and friends. Good morning, Miss Olivia. Evelyn is here. Cece McLaughlin is in the house. Miss Sonia, how are you? I haven't seen you in a minute. Robert is here, front and center. Gonna check off your name for attendance today. Patricia Blake is here. Good morning. Felicia Rankin in the house. Demara is joining us from New York. Catherine here. Good morning, Miss Catherine. Wee Wee is here. Jean, how are you? So nice to see you. Damaris, Everton, Dee Dee, Marshall, Shaka Zulu. Good morning, fam. KK joining us. Abby is like, I'm here. Good morning, class. Strong Wilt in the house. Yes, I'm feeling somewhat better. Yesterday was kind of the first day that I was able to feel like I could sit down and properly at the computer and try to get some work done. So I did do that. There's some paperwork I needed to do. There's always paperwork that needs to be done. lots of paperwork still today that needs to be done as well. So I need to get my vaccine today, my number 2 for the shingles shot, folks. If you're over 50, please look into getting your shingles vaccine sorted out, because I understand that that is definitely something you do not want to get, honey chill. So I recommend everyone call public health over the HSA, and they're more than happy to assist you with getting that sorted out. So it's two shots, and it's not a nice feeling shot. I got to tell you, some shots, obviously you feel them all when they go in. Some sting and burn a little bit more than others. This one you feel going in, and you feel it for days after. I'm not going to lie to you all. It's not going to be a pleasant experience. However, from what I've been told about what shingles does to your body and how that will never leave you, I can tell you that you'll be happy to get the vaccine and not have to deal with catching shingles. Yeah. So the shingles virus is no bueno. So I have my second shot of that today. There's some travel protocols with it and stuff as well. Like if you're traveling to certain countries, make sure that you know what those restrictions are. Like you have to do your shots in a certain order, I think. Interestingly enough, Panama is like on the list of countries. So if you're making a trip to Panama, just make sure you speak to public health about what vaccines you're planning. Remember now that a lot of these vaccines they have like an incubation period or whatever, that they need to be in your body before they become effective. So you will want to ensure that, especially if it's vaccines needed for travel, that you do them ahead of time with sufficient time to still be able to get your traveling done. YouTuber 345, good morning. Good morning to Miss Bonnie. Miss Emma's here. Nadine. Silka Phillips says it's called stiff neck. I've had stiff neck before, and this was very different. I had a really bad one years ago. Pain lasted like a week. Always make sure you have something supporting your neck. I learned my lesson. Yeah, I think in this case, what happened is that I was kind of like using 2 pillows and trying to elevate my neck a little bit. And it must have really, listen, I literally woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and the pain is what woke me up. I didn't just wake up on my own. I woke up with pain, severe pain. And I was like, oh my God, what is this, And so, one of the interesting things about neck and shoulder pain, and even pain in the arm, it's something that you don't always want to assume that you know what it is. So I know it's easy to say, oh yeah, it's just another stiff neck. Because of the severity of what I was experiencing, I hadn't experienced anything like that ever before. I was like, whoa, what is this? I knew I had to go to the doctor. But I think a lot of us sometimes will ignore pain like that. And it's not a good idea, because it can be an indication of something worse, especially for men, but I think even for women. Coronary issues, heart attacks and stuff present themselves not just as chest pain, but sometimes they're pain in the shoulder, arm pain, numbness, and so on. So don't take it lightly. See a physician to rule out other things. And I remember someone, in our family who passed away from a massive heart attack, and he had been having shoulder pain previous to that. And, his daughter-in-law said to him, go get it checked out, because she's an emergency nurse, emergency room nurse. And she thought, you should go get an EKG, get your heart checked out, do your executive health checks. And of course he didn't do that. And by the time he was having, this, when he was having the heart attack, like the big one, it was already too late, basically. So don't take it lightly. And there are arteries and other stuff that run obviously in the neck. It's a very important area. And many years ago, I read a story, a little bit of a hypochondriac when I read these stories. I read a story about how a person went to the salon, and because of how her neck was positioned in the chair, when they put you back and they position your neck when they're washing your hair, because of how her neck was positioned in the chair, it actually pinched the major artery that runs in her neck. And as a result of that, it induced a stroke because it cut off the flow in that major artery. So listen, don't take these things lightly. Your body obviously does as much as it can. but at the end of the day, be cautious. And I knew that when the physician saw me, I had done the x-ray and they already had me on pain meds. He was asking me certain probative questions, and I knew exactly why he was asking those. Like, do you have any numbness in the arms, any weakness? And, I was like, no, this is just right in my neck and it goes up into the head. And so he checked the strength, for example. He did blood work, and he also checked the strength of my arms and stuff like that. Wanted to make sure that I wasn't presenting with any other symptoms that would indicate that something much worse was actually happening and going on. So yeah. Morning, Richard. Robert says, glad you're doing better and hopefully enough for a bust and pop-off show, as we all need one. Oh my Lord. Y'all are so naughty. Y'all are not good. Y'all do not encourage me to behave. Seriously. So I've got my TENS machine. I need to get I have a heat pad, but it's too big for like the shoulder area. So I think I need to get one of those like water bottle heat pads. I had one and only God knows where it is. So I need to get one of those. Amazon, you and I need to talk today. And then what else do I need? So yeah, so now it's still there, but it's more like a dull pain, dull kind of headachy feeling. So I'll take that over the acute pain any day. So still working on it. Janelle, morning, honey child. Are you still over at the Compass, girl? I haven't seen you in forever. Haven't seen you on social media. Miss Eugenia, good morning. How are you? Atlas, hey, what's going on today? We're dragging out some oldies but goodies. Atlas says I'm late. Atlas, another person I haven't seen in a minute. Good morning. Good morning. Miss Jackie is here. Good morning to the beautiful, Jackie, that profile picture, you're so pretty. Cayman kind, blessed and highly favored, honey child. Paul joining us from Bermuda. Miss Dawn is in the house. Miss Sonia says, I'm here every day. I just don't comment. In pain most of the time. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that, girl. Listen, Miss Sonia, pain is no fun. Trust and believe me. Everton joining us. Cayman kind says, blessed Monday. Miss Jackie Bennett in the house. Had to ask you to please send happy birthday to my two sons, Rayon and Thomas. Are they twins? Are they both their birthdays today? Send some pictures and we're happy to post them up on social media. The other day we posted none other than Graham Rankin. Big shout out to Graham. He just celebrated his birthday. And he was saying to me, Sandy, now I know your platform is popular, but honey child, I didn't know it was that popular because everybody all over the world was calling and wishing me happy birthday because they saw your post. And I said, yep, we got followers in every nook and cranny of the world. Miss Lucille Seymour is also celebrating her 80th birthday today. So happy birthday to Miss Lucille. Lavana, good morning to you. Lynette is in the house. Miss Yulene is here. Cynthia, hello. Some goodies and oldies this morning. Cheyenne. I hope I didn't butcher that name, honey child, but good morning. Gina is here. So who you say was fighting the domestic abuse? We're going to get to that. We're getting there, honey child. Miss Juliet, good morning to you, darling. Miss Sue McLaughlin, Christopher Bryan in the house. Good morning. Barbara is here. Miss Aline. I'm doing much better. Thank you so much. And Deborah also joining us, Deborah Jefferson. So good to see. All right, full class. Over 300 people already. Let me download. I needed to have Kevin, big shout out, helped me with this video over the weekend. Oh, child, this video had so much profanity in it that I had to get him to help me bleep out the profanity because it was bleep, 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 bleep. Yeah, and y'all know during the morning show we can't be having none of that, honey child. All right, so y'all so bad. Okay, so let me say this. Some of you missed it. I think this might have been in a little bit of overtime. I need to get my back scratch out, child. I noticed that when you're in pain, you don't have the same mobility that you have in terms of not just the strength, but the flexibility as well. So got my back scratcher available this morning. So listen now. Jonathan, big shout out to Jonathan Adam. He called on Friday, and he was talking about the comment section at another publication, which allows anonymous comments. And whilst I thank Jonathan, I want to encourage Jonathan and everybody else. Don't get upset and don't bother yourself with nonsense, because I've had to, since I took on this space, grow a much thicker skin as it is, and not respond to a lot of things. Don't take things personally. Yes, we all love a good pop off segment. God knows sometimes we just need the relief, and it's a relief. And for me, it's actually a little bit of naughty fun as well, I gotta admit to you. But there's a lot of things, quite frankly, that I simply ignore. And you have to, because God knows if you try to take on these people, you would lose your mind, quite frankly. And so the ability to ignore nonsense is like a superpower. It's not for everybody. So I am very, very thankful that I have grown in my journey. And now I have the ability to hear things, to see things, to read things, and just ignore it. Especially when I know that people are so cowardly. It's certainly one thing if someone is going to walk up and say something to me in my face. That would be a very different situation, without a doubt. But when they don't even have the, as we would say, testicular fortitude to do that, I know that they're real cowards. They want to hide. I call them fake keyboard warriors, because a real warrior would face you head on and say what they got to say. These fake keyboard warriors hang out in the CNS comment section, and they're just commenting pure nonsense and pure foolishness. So more power to them. Jonathan, don't waste your time. Please do us all a favor. Don't call on the show mentioning CNS comments again, because then you got some other people all up in their feelings. My good friend, she was like, oh, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to set these people straight because they don't even know what they're talking about. And this is someone that I've known now for 30 years. So when it comes to people actually really knowing you, and of course, those people want to defend you when they really know your character. And it's not about being perfect. And no one is going to say, oh, Sandy hasn't done ish in her life. It's like, yeah, yes, she's done ish, and she's still 95% a pretty good person. The 5% is a little bit whack, that comes out. But people say things that are inaccurate and false, and they're just, listen, I guess it is their prerogative, which I'm about to protect their free speech rights to say all kind of nonsense and foolishness. And people have to know how to pick sense from nonsense. Those people don't bother me. I don't care, right? They don't put food on my table. They really don't know much about my life. I even saw some of the stuff that they were saying that was completely inaccurate, and you just keep it moving. So I'm sorry that some of you were getting upset by the comment section, but the best thing to do is to simply not read it. Simple as that. Once again, like I said, who knows who these individuals are? Obviously, they're people who have a personal beef for whatever reason, pissed off along the way, probably have been featured on CMR. If it was before CMR existed, they probably would have been featured in CMR back in the day. So let them have their little nutcracking sessions over there, being fake warriors, because it would take some real energy to be real. And obviously they're not about that life. So, it is what it is. One of the things that they said, though, which I want to actually spend a couple minutes just correcting before we get on to the real news, the real reason why we're here this morning, is that they said, why does Sandy need legal aid? Oh, she's got this and she's got that. And I kind of chuckled to myself, because I want to make it very, very clear how the legal aid situation came about. This was not me seeking or applied for legal aid. This was a situation where the court actually summons basically the legal aid director. And it occurred to me that they may not have ever done that before, because they said, who is she? Like, they didn't even know what she looked like. And I'm like, oh, okay. And they wanted to have a word with her. And they instructed the legal aid office to go away with me, and they instructed me as well to go away with her, and to have a session where we were to discuss, getting senior counsel. And they said, basically, see about getting her legal aid application sorted out. So it was on the instructions of the court. And when you don't go to court, and you don't understand how sometimes these things work, of course you can jump in the anonymous section and be a fake warrior, because you're not operating and your comments not based on any degree of accurate information. And that's really quite sad, because I can assure you, it wouldn't have been often that the legal aid director has ever been summoned to the court by the Court of Appeal. In my opinion, since they didn't even know who she was, they may have never done it in this particular manner. Maybe they've communicated with her otherwise, but they did this in a particular manner to ensure that she was in court. And this was something that then would be recorded as part of the court proceedings for that day. And that's important, because I even said to Wendy Ledger, Wendy wasn't there last week, Monday. She missed the session. So her reporting on what transpired in court is less than accurate. Let me just put it that way, because she simply wasn't there. So if someone isn't there, you might ask yourself, well, how the heck are they able to, report on this? Well, if you look at what she wrote, what she did was she talked a little bit about what they said that day on Thursday, which wasn't much at all. Thursday was like, okay, here's the update. And, that was pretty much it. And then the rest of her article was filler stuff about, what happened in the past with this case with Matthew. The substance of what actually happened with the Court of Appeal this week happened on Monday. It didn't happen on Thursday. Thursday was basically a follow-up to say, yes, she met with legal aid. That has been sorted out to some degree, and we're well on our way to getting senior counsel. The court said, fine, work out the timetable, goodbye. It was like all of 5 minutes. And trust me, I was sitting there in pain, and every single minute of that counted because I was in such excruciating pain, right? So that's what transpired. So she wrote an article based on the second day's proceedings and not the first day's proceedings. And unfortunately, she didn't bother to go to the court and say, hey, can I get a transcript of what happened? I didn't have a word with her, because to her credit, she reached out to me and said, oh, Sandy, somebody must have told her there were some comments made in relation to her platform. And she's like, oh, I've always supported you on this, and I've always felt like this judgment was wrong, and yada, yada, yada. And I said, Wendy, listen, I'm not taking this personal. You and I don't have no beef. So, you don't need to feel any way about it, because it feels like she was trying to defend her article and defend herself. And I said, but what I do think is, because you weren't there on the day that the real substance happened, and you obviously didn't report any of that stuff, that means that your article is actually inaccurate to a large degree. And so when I say inaccurate, let me be clear what I'm saying. It's missing some important bits. So that leads to the inaccuracy. It's not that what she said in it was inaccurate. It was just missing the first day of the proceedings, which was the most important day and the most meaningful stuff that the court said. And I actually said to her, why don't you reach out to the court, or why didn't you reach out to the court to get a transcript? Because her and I both know that there's a little bit of a game being played here. And that anytime she posts about me, she gets a lot of comments, which means a lot of people are going and viewing those comments. And a lot of people, or some people, we don't know, are constantly on the article. So she gets traction reporting on me, and that's fine. I'm glad I can help her out. Let me repeat that. I'm glad I can help her out and make it a relevant platform through articles about myself. But I want people to be accurate, right? And I said, why didn't you go and ask the court for transcripts? Because we can do that of the proceedings. And she's like, oh, they would take forever to get that to me. And I said, okay. She said, this is what she said, actually. She said, I wasn't there Monday. And as great as my powers are, getting audio from Court of Appeal is about as likely as me winning the national lottery. She said, I reported exactly what happened yesterday is all. Well, the problem with that is I'm pretty sure in your article, you never said that there was a hearing on Monday, which I missed. So this article will only reflect what happened on Thursday. You see? And it gives your readers, who some of them already have a bee in their, not their bonnet, but their, right? About me. And so then they get a certain, they don't even understand, because you weren't able to explain anything about the legal aid, how the court summons her, how that came about. So here they are thinking, oh, Sandy's trying to pretend like she can't pay, come Miss Stacey, like she can't pay a little bill and whatever. They don't understand that the court summons the legal aid director to court. So, anywho, honey child, this is how sometimes media operates, and I hope y'all keep that in mind when you read some of these articles at times. Everybody has a different style of writing, and so I think what would have been fair for her to say in her coverage in her story was she could actually say that, you know what, I wasn't there on Monday, and something happened on Monday that I would have missed. That would have maybe made some of y'all go and have a quiet seat in the corner and realize it. Marshall says, don't read it. If you don't see it, it won't bother you. And this is my recommendation. This is why I'm even saying it this morning to people like Jonathan. Obviously, Jonathan reads CNS, and that's fine. But what I would say, Jonathan, is don't call on this program talking about what Wendy is writing, because unfortunately, then that gets people feeling a way and they almost couldn't help themselves but to go and read it. Let's move on, because that was worth. I wasted 5 minutes of my life talking about it when I really wish I didn't have to. All right. So let's keep it moving. So over the weekend, lots of interesting things happened. First of all, let's kick it off on a bout of positivity. Give me 1 second here. Let me make sure that this is all in the correct order. So I do want to do a personal shout out to Miss Jazz. Oh, Lord, Soak is here. And if I mispronounce it, she's going to kill me. All right. Jazz Pitcairn. That's as best as I'm going to get it. Just leave me the hell alone. It's not going to get any better than that. All right. So listen, young Miss Jazz did a phenomenal, we talked about her Ivan short film. It was only about 9 minutes long, I think. And the idea behind the short film is for her to be able to now get funding for a full feature-length film. They filmed it over 2 days, and I tell you what, you'd be surprised what they were able to accomplish in those 2 days. Shout out to her. Both showings, there was 2 showings on Friday, 7 o'clock and 8 o'clock, and both of those were completely sold out. So kudos to her for that. Very, very pleased to see that the attendance was so warm, welcoming, and completely full. So they actually had a little bit of a discussion afterwards, including, with her, that's her on the right-hand side. Oh, she's so pretty. Jazz is beautiful. Miss Teresa and John must be so proud of all of their children. They've got a set of twins as well. And then we have the actress there in the middle. She looks like she could be Kay Mannion. I'm going to be honest. She kind of has that look that people say, oh, Kay Mannions have a certain look. She kind of has that look. She could pass for one of us. But there she is, a very soft-spoken young lady. She's the actress there in the middle. And then the young lady, I forget what her title was on the right. Oh, I forget. But, it was so interesting to have them field questions and listen to, exactly what they had to say about the experience. And a lot of they did like a behind the scenes bit of how it was filmed and how it was put together. And you got to see a lot of the Kay Mannion participation in this. Lots of Kay Mannions from Badir, Wendy, Miller, and others were behind the scenes ensuring that this happened, that this became a reality. So, Jazz used a lot of local talent, staging and so on. So pretty amazing. And trust me, it was only 9 minutes and change. But if you know anything about the world of filming and videography and photography and lighting and all this kind of stuff, what they produced in that time and the things that they had to do in order to pull that off in 2 days, it's like amazing. One lady talked about even getting the original from 20 years ago, the CNB calendar, because CNB calendars are like a staple thing in Cayman. And she talked about getting the CNB calendar, so the original calendar from Hurricane Ivan, so that they could have it there on the wall. Getting the right props and stuff, like what the radios would have looked like back then, what the phones looked like 20 years ago. Because remember, 20 years ago, Most of us didn't have no fancy iPhones with 5G and 4G. You might have still been rocking your little Nokia or your BlackBerry, your BBMs back in the day, right? So it's a whole different world. And I thought it was so interesting to kind of step back in time. And I'm going to be completely honest with you. It actually made me very teary eyed as I watched it because it brought back memories of Ivan. Although, each one of us has our unique experiences. And then I feel like on top of that, we also have a collective experience of what we all would have gone through and what would have happened to us. So it's different, and I felt very emotional watching the short film. I didn't have any personal like harrowing experiences myself. Like I wasn't the one climbing up in like somebody talked about the house having like 6 feet of water in it and they almost went up to the rafters and all that kind of stuff. Like I didn't have that personally, but I think collectively as a country, if you were here, you still would have taken on and experienced even hearing people's stories of what they went through. There was definitely there was a collective moment in our history that once you live through something like that, it's embedded in your brain. It's a memory. And so sometimes we take on other people's memories. And I think that the film captured just that moment in time. And it was like a mother and daughter at home by themselves. And of course, that's different. That's so different than when you have the support of people around you. Having larger groups was better for your mental sanity. Having men around that could help with different things was also, incredibly welcoming, without a doubt. So I think Jazz did a phenomenal job. Lots of people were in attendance. Some government ministers. Now, let me say this. We had people from the DART organization, some of their top CEOs and stuff. They were there. Lots of people supported. Lots of people in the community. And of course, I know Jazz was very, very appreciative of all the people that came out to support. But I'm always a little bit disappointed when our elected officials don't show up as they should. So the ones that were there, Minister Dwayne Seymour, John was there, Minister Isaac Rankin was there. So one is heritage and one John is culture. And tourism minister I know helped to sponsor it. So he was a big sponsor for the project as well. So one of the things that I do want to say is I thought that all of the ministers and all of of course, don't even ask about Madam Premier. No, she was not there. She did at least send her apologies for not being there. But, I really would have hoped that more people would have been in attendance, although it was sold out, but they should have gotten their tickets early so that they could ensure that that they were there. And so, the premier should have been there. Not a single member of the PPM. I didn't see a single member of their entourage of, their entire party. I did see Mr. Wayne Panton. He was there. So it was good to see him. But, my question becomes, where was everybody else? Get it together, folks. I don't like when we want to give lip service to, supporting our young people, supporting film industries and all this kind of stuff. And, it's difficult for any degree of production to happen in this country. I can tell you that without fear of contradiction. But it is even more challenging at this particular time because we don't have a film industry here. And I know a lot of people are personally like, oh, we can do it. It is difficult for us to do it. And what I do know without fear of contradiction is that this would have been a very challenging project without all of the support that she received. But there were still tons and tons of challenges. There are industries, like there's a whole area in Canada which they have perfected, doing film especially made for television type films. Practically every single Lifetime and Hallmark movie you see is being filmed in Canada. They built a whole industry around these things. we're not there yet. And I think every step in that direction is an amazing and positive step. And we definitely need to embrace these opportunities for people to get experience, to be able to put together a production like this. I think is just, so incredibly amazing. I just wanted to see more support. So get out, show up, and support. Me and my crooked neck. I got to tell you that I took the brace off and I just put a smile on my face. I still couldn't really turn much to my right. And I just showed up, because a lot of times that's all people need you to do, is to show up for them. Congrats, Jazz. You did a great job, honey Shell. Very, very proud of you. And, her siblings were there in support as well. You'll have to forgive me. I can't remember the name of her sister and brother, but hold on. I'll know the sister's name more than I'll know the brother's name, because I know we featured her for a squash story. Because she plays. Oh, wait a minute. I know them both. David is the young man, because yes, he was head boy at Trinity College. Mess with him. And then his sister. Hold on now. She was doing some squash. She was squash championships. All of these young Caymanian children doing amazing things and being so incredibly positive. Her name will come to me. All right, it'll come to me. Yep, so he was head boy at Trinity College back in Ontario. So congratulations. It's hard, folks, when you're raising your kids and, hold on. The daughter's name. It'll, hold on. Oh, it'll come to me. But I was going to say Jade. Yes, so there's Jade and David. They're the twins. And then there's Jazz, who's the eldest. Yes. So, yeah, and Jade plays, she's like a little squash champion. So, it's hard even, when you got one child to try and raise them just to achieve high things. I think, this is a family that obviously has done it right. And, all of their young people are just on a positive path. And I want to do a little big shout out to David, because he actually stopped me when I was coming out of theater and thanked me for my support and said, how amazing it was. And said how his mom always speaks so highly of me and my platform. Teresa and I go way back. We worked at Maples and Calder together back in the day. So, yeah. All right. Barbara says, I love my little Nokia. Aw, bless your heart. They were the best phones, because I tell you what, you could drop them from here all the way to West Bay and back, and they would still be ringing. Somebody would still be calling you on that phone. Good morning, Miss Coracita. Buenos días, señora Alba. ¿Cómo estás? Estoy bien. Okay, so what else did I do this weekend? So I went to that. Oh, big shout out to the cast and the crew who had their final weekend at the Cayman Drama Society. So Juve is finally over. If you missed it, again, that was a full house on Saturday. If you missed it, you missed a really good time. I'm going to post up some Juve pictures later on social media so that you guys can see it. I'm going to do more. I take a lot of photos, and I think sometimes I need to share more on social so you guys can see what's happening in your community for the stuff that you miss. But wow, what an amazing performance. I've seen it already with the dress rehearsal, but I did want to go back and see it again because the main character was not the main character, but her it's kind of the second main character, I guess. She was played by two different actresses. And so I saw the first one with Kayla, and then I wanted to see the second one as well with this young lady whose name I can't remember at the moment, but both did a phenomenal job playing the character. And, different people bring different things to characters when you know a little thing or two about acting and stuff. So that's why I wanted to see it again. And it was a very different vibe to see like a full audience there. obviously, and it was a very, very different vibe. This young lady with the purple top on, she's playing the character. Oh gosh, I am not going to remember right now. But Wendy, there's a director, doctor. She's my pain management doctor. At first, it didn't click where I knew her from. I'm like, where do I? She feels so familiar to me when I was talking to her the first time. I'm like, where do I know her from? And then it clicked like, oh my God, she's my pain management doctor at HSA. So Misha, I'm calling her Nisha. Nisha played Nisha. She went all out. She even got braids in for her character. I was like, what? Girl, this is when you're embodying the performance, right? And here's the crew. There's DJ Sharon. There's Kayla. And yes, it was a fantastic performance. And, there were parts of it that made you sad, parts of it that made you laugh. And a lot of it that really made you think about life. If you missed it, you missed a good time. It's very, very quite the story being told through the theater. So again, congratulations to the entire cast and crew. And of course, there are lots of people behind the scenes doing lighting and sound and all this stuff to make these productions what they are. And they're thank you, Giselle. Ashley was amazing. I liked a lot of her facial expressions. For me, really conveyed a lot about the part. And so I really enjoyed her performance as well. Like I said, they bring different things to it. Johan is in the house on my next topic. Johan, might I invite you to do something? And it's called Get Your Own Show, Honey Chow. Now y'all gonna be like, oh, she blazing up Johan again today. Big shout out to Johan. He was even offended by the CNS article, and he got in the comment section as well, telling them about their backside. Y'all leave my brownies alone, and Sandy. Oh my gosh. I told him not to waste his time, that those people are too idle. But listen, Johan, you need your own show, for real. You could do a comedy hour. Mm-hmm. I don't know if Stacey be giving me eggs on purpose to make me gaseous. I had my suspicions. But she did hook me up with some plantain, honey chow. You know you can't go wrong with plantain for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. Especially when they're ripe. Oh my God. Now listen, Caymanians, y'all know a thing or two about plantain sandwiches. I'm not really a sandwich maker like that, but big shout out to Durban Scott. They're my neighbor. And June Ivan, I think it was Ivan times. He was like, Sandy, you need to learn how to make a Caymanian breakfast sandwich. I was like, really? He's like, yep. Start with your egg. And you put this on and your jelly and your jam. And I was like, ooh, honey chow. And then once I started eating it, it was like, remember Miss Caritas? She would make them too. They were so good. Oh my God. So now I get the whole plantain and bread thing. I must admit, having grown up in the States, I was kind of like, what y'all eating plantain and bread for? And they're like, no, honey chow, you got to try it. There's something about it. So I'm gonna do that right now. I'm gonna make a plantain and bread sandwich. Now, if I had a proper fried egg, I could just put everything in together with a little jam and jelly and make a proper sandwich. Yes. Anywho, yes, Giselle, they did an amazing job. Morning, Siobhan. Andrew, good morning. So, speaking of getting your own show, Kenneth Bryan is going to, Marshall said, so he was really defending the, Johan got to defend the brownies. Abby says, if you rush the brownies, that's how you dry them out. You see, these things take time. Sarah says, oh, Miss Carita's fried jam fritters. I miss those. Robert says, I hope the Miss Stacey spiked your drink with the pop-off for you. I got to get to physio this morning, so we won't have much time for that. But yes, so what was I saying? Oh, Kenneth Bryan is going to have his own show, y'all. Yes, go on through, Minister Bryan. He didn't answer my question about what his plans are if this show is going to continue if he gets reelected, or is this just a show between now and election time? So I am curious, Minister, about that. Do let us know. Okay, this is going to be interesting. He says that it's a constituency show. So if you're not his constituent, it's not really aimed at you. So he said that the show aims to provide a safe and real-time platform for Georgetown Central constituents to voice their concerns, ask questions, and get answers straight from me. It's kind of weird, though, because I do get, when he says a safe and real-time platform, I'm thinking, safe? Do they not feel safe otherwise? So I don't know. As I actually wrote this story, and as I was writing it, it occurred to me that his show is called Let's Talk. And when I was doing a little bit of research for the show, because I wanted to give a little bit of history of recent talk shows, Austin Harris did a podcast back in 2022 that was PPM sponsored. And that show, although it only lasted, I think, about 4 months, was also called Let's Talk. So I was like, I wonder if the minister realized that it was the same name. And that one was I don't know, the platform for that was a little bit different. I think the PPM was trying to look for a mouthpiece to get their stuff across, and yeah, it didn't really work out too well for them. So we'll see. It's once a week on Thursdays, so if you're at Georgetown South constituent, I guess go check it out. Speaking of plantains, did you say that plantains don't go with beans? That's the one thing plantains goes with best. Black beans, rice, and plantain. Yum. No, I don't think I said that exactly. I can't remember what I said, to be honest. But I was saying that I wanted some plantains that day, and I didn't have any. I only had beans and saltfish and something else. Plantain. I've not found a thing that plantains don't go with yet. For me, plantains go with everything. For real. All right. Okay. Good morning. Good morning, Miss Sandra. I would like if you could wish Arnold Berry condolences and loss in his uncle, Alpha Berry. But when did that happen? I'm so sorry to hear that. Wow. This person says safe equals refrain from saying things they disagree with. Well, he didn't say safe for himself. He said safe for them, right? So I don't know. Oh my God. What a hot mess. Saturday night he passed away. Oh, so sorry to hear. All right. Hi, Joe. Was a turtle farm yesterday at the pool. The bar was playing music. One song came on, and it had the F word in it quite a few times. Turtle farm need to do better with all these children there. Oh, no bueno. Oh my gosh. This person says, where's Hunter when you need a good pop-off session on CMR? Laughing out loud. Oh, no, sir. Nah, he won't be coming back. Leave him alone. All right. Let's see. Okay. All right, so let's get to some other things now then, shall we? Okay, honey chill. Well, not a weekend in Cayman can we go without some sort of a accident. We had several of those over the weekend, of course. One yesterday on South Church Street that looked pretty bad. Hopefully everybody's okay. And or a fight. So y'all want to be out in these streets fighting, worse than little hoodlums, but anywho. Let's talk about it. This video should have all the bleepity bleepity bleep 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 bleep. out of it. So give me 1 second here. I got to make sure I queue up the correct one. Yes. All right. And I do want to talk about the near drowning incident at the beach yesterday as well. And a big shout out to a few people who ensure that that young man is still alive. All right. So I don't know what this fight was about. Shirley says, I'm trying to find out if Mr. Ezra Miller will be contending again for Northside. I would like to know. Do you want to know because you're going to vote for him? Or, dare I ask, you want to know for other reasons? Well, I don't know what he's doing. I mean, I certainly haven't heard. I have my suspicions that the reason why he's come out of whatever rock he's been hiding under for the last 4 years is because he must be trying to make some moves politically, Miss Shirley. I can't say with any degree of certainty, but might I invite him to get back under that rock? Don't bother with it. I've been talking to people in Northside, and honestly, don't bother. Cassius says, after 12 years of being in power and totally ignoring the people, I find it hilarious that the PPM would be so bold to have a show called Let's Talk. As for Austin, may he never return to politics. Well, what I would say in relation to the PPM is they have stepped up their media game. Okay, let me say this. Let's talk politics for just a second. I think that there is a need for understanding, how social media works in this day and age. Yes, it's great to have shows to be able to communicate with people and all this stuff. But what I want to warn politicians about, and I hope that they're all listening, especially the PPM, I think Austin probably got the memo. His show only lasted for 4 months. Is that there is a necessity for whatever it is that you're doing to be authentic, right? Don't put on airs about you. Don't pretend to be something you're not. Number one, God knows you can't sustain it very long. People get a feel for what's up, and they will know the real deal. That's why when people say, "Oh, Sandy," some of the older folks, "Don't you be cursing now?" And then I'm like, listen, honey child, I'm not pretending to be something I'm not. I'm not pretending to be perfect. I'm not pretending that I'm living up and knocking down church doors and all this kind of stuff. That ain't me. This is what you see is what you get. There is a degree of authenticity here, right? And I share the real deal, the real stories. That's why a lot of times I will use my own life as a hot mess of an example of trauma and chaos and all this kind of stuff, because I can relate to a lot of the subjects that, we touch on here on this program from my own experiences. Dysfunctionality in families. When we talk about that, I raise my hand first, because nobody more dysfunctional than us, honey Jill. And the worst kind of way, all kind of mix up step siblings and the evil step parents, and this one hating on this one, and this one talking about light skinned sisters and dark skinned brothers. And listen, yeah, we have it all, right? We have the Jamaican mix up in the family. Some of them who it's sweet. They can't leave the Jamaican men alone. Some of them had married them at 55, 19 million. That's how Gigi says numbers sometimes now when she's looking for a really big number. She just throw out something and add a million or trillion onto it. And you're like, huh? 55 to 50 trillion husbands. I'm here for it. The people will know when you are not being real. Sometimes you can fool some of the people some of the time, but eventually people figure you out. And so anybody, including the PPM, I don't care what they want to call their show, Let's Talk, Let's Crack a Lack, whatever they want to call it, if there's not a degree of sincerity and authenticity behind it, it's all about politics, and it's all about trying to fool you, the people, into voting for them, or believing that they have a real opposition going, which they haven't really done a good job even being the opposition. You get to recognize that, you know, that, yeah, it just doesn't work. You know, you're not fooling the people. The people know that this is all contrived. Just like Hunter, he's doing his little videos now. Somebody was sharing his videos with me over the weekend. I said, "Oh, bless his little heart. He's trying." But if you even go through and look at his history of posts and stuff, it's so obvious what this is all about. This is all about, oh, I want to run for the election. Please vote for me. And now I'm going to pretend like I have something to say. Nothing of substance, no real plan. What did Trump say? He doesn't have a plan, but he's like thinking about a plan or something. I don't know. You know, it's like they haven't sat down and thought things through, none at all. And so when they sit down, oh, you know, we need this initiative. You know, I hate to tell you, I hate to say this because maybe it's not entirely a fair comparison, but he kind of, I feel like he's trying to replicate what happened with the same minister who's going to do a talk show now. Like he's trying to replicate what Minister Brian did. Did y'all think so? Or is this just me? They almost kind of look alike too. I wonder if they're family because they both have brat connections. I bet you if they do the 23andMe, they'll find out that they're probably cousins or something. Because they kind of have a very similar, you know, appearance and stuff as well. But I do feel like he's like, okay, this worked for Minister Brian, and to his credit, he actually worked in media. So I think probably more so than most, he understands the impact that media can have. But my thing is always this: if you don't lead with the truth first and foremost, it doesn't matter how you're producing it, how good it looks, how great the music is. You got a jingle, shingle, whatever. You know, all that's great. But if there's no authenticity to it, I don't know, man. It just doesn't come across. It just doesn't come across right. You know, people are going to see that it's contrived. Let me eat my little plantain sandwich, honey child, before it gets cold. Because I got to take my medication. So that's the only advice I would have for people. Just be real. Because you're no longer fooling people the way y'all used to be able to fool people. Marshall says Trump said that he had a concept of a plan. I don't even know what that means. What's the concept of a plan? Miss Pat says, how about let's talk the truth? Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Sandy. How are you today?
Not bad, my dear. How are you?
I'm okay. But you shouldn't say, you for a lady, you're not supposed to say not bad.
Oh.
You're supposed to say pretty good.
Pretty good.
Because you're pretty and I think you're good.
All right. We'll go with pretty good then.
I used to say pretty good, but the last time I said pretty good to a man, he said, sir, I think he's a good man, but nothing pretty about you.
Oh, my goodness. What a mess.
Anyway, what I want to say to you this morning, Mr. Ezra Miller and Mr. Arden McLean Easton. I will repeat again, Mr. Ezra Miller from Northside and Mr. Arden McLean from East End. When we had the big issue about the West Bay Road, the old West Bay Road that is now closed, the only two that I can remember that fought with us, stood up with us, it was Mr. Ezra Miller and Mr. Arden McLean came on our platform and helped us out with the meeting and said it shouldn't be, while the representatives of West Bay, they were fighting against us. So I will say this, regardless of, I don't know what Ezra or Arden is doing for this election, but I can tell you this. From my experience and others as well, they have fought an extra good fight, trying to preserve things in West Bay, and not only in West Bay, all over the island. So regardless of what happened now, I have the maximum respect for those two gentlemen. If you could do the research on them, guys, they have did a lot for this island. But the first thing you hear, well, he want to run for politics. So what's the big deal if he wants? Why he have to get like ridiculed, because of course that's his privilege if he wants to run for politics. Nothing against the president representative for Eastern or North Side, no. But I will stand up and say, two gentlemen in this island, and maybe others as well, but I'm talking about Ezra Miller and Mr. Arden McLean. God bless their soul. I really respect them.
Okay. All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank
and have
you
a
so
good day.
much. I appreciate it. It is interesting what endears us to people. And, that is obviously something that was important for that gentleman. What I would say, though, is this. I mean, when someone has been in office for, Ezra was there for how long? Many, many moons. Let me put it that way. For 20 years. I would expect that you'd be able to point to a lot more that he has done than just standing up for the West Bay Road. Now, obviously, that's the one thing that this gentleman remembers, and that's important to him. But my question, as my mind went to the situation, is okay. And I'm not saying that he hasn't stood up for a lot of things, but what else would have stood out in your mind? 20 years, 15 years, even 12 years is time for you to get stuff done in public office. Now, it's so funny that you mentioned that, because this morning, was it this morning or last night? No, this was last night at 8:06 p.m. Someone said the following to me. They, funny enough, I wasn't talking about Ezra, but they certainly brought up his name. And they said, well, first they were talking about, they saw the story about the show. And so they kind of said people are wise to these games now. And I said, yep. I said, that's why Hunter, he's kind of doing the same thing with the videos and whatever. And they said, oh, I won't say what they said actually about that part. That might be, he might get in his feelings again. And God knows we don't want another post. But the person basically said people are wise to these games now. In their opinion, he wasn't going anywhere. And then they stated why, which I'll leave out. And they said, we don't need certain types of people in politics anymore. This country needs people with vision, a plan, and not just a concept of a plan. So everybody's talking about this concept of plan, because it certainly resonates with us as well. And I said, true. And they said, the stakes are too high. And I said, true again. And they said, so let's see who steps forward. Then they said, but Ezra needs to sit the blankety blank down. Poor thing. And I said, because of course, all of us are shocked at his comments last week. So I responded and I said, trust me, I was shocked at him, and how he's come, been quiet all this time. This is what he comes out with, this nonsense. They said, listen, I'm not Team J, but you cannot ignore the fact that he's done more in 4 years than either Edna or Ezra in 30 years. So, and I said, you know what is so funny about that? That the people of North Side keep telling me that this is the first time that they've been seeing stuff done in North Side. So you might be talking about West Bay Road, and that's fine. I'm glad that people stood up. But hello, the people of North Side, a lot of the people are saying, yeah, we finally getting stuff done around here. And they are happy about it. I'm just saying. Sometimes when you're in the world of politics, you have got to know. Oh, my apologies. A little crumb was right there. You've got to know when to step out, step aside, and go sit down. And, 25, 30 years later, you've had your time just, sit in an advisory position, maybe. That's what I'm going to suggest for some of y'all. Now, there's something afoot. I'm not ready to tell y'all yet, but there is something that's happening in the world of politics where, and I find this so incredibly interesting. Politicians have a sometimes larger than life ego. Sometimes they have it before they go into politics. Oftentimes it gets bigger as they remain in office. And so you always have to be cautious that you remain humble. Okay. Now, I think it's interesting that politicians in Cayman feel like their appointments, you know what I mean, when they get voted in, that is a lifelong appointment. They never, hardly ever bow out gracefully. In other words, I'm not going to run. I'm going to retire from politics. Normally, something wrong with them when they do that. They're sick, whatever. Other people have to vote them out of office. To me, that's unfortunate. And they just keep coming back. Like they never get the memo. The people voted you out and they didn't vote you back in the next time you run. Stop running. Obviously, the people don't want you. Some of y'all West Bay former MPs, I want you to listen very, very carefully to me this morning. You had your time. You were voted out. You tried to run a couple times since then unsuccessfully. I hear you planning on running again. Save yourself the $1,000 and the headache. Good morning, caller.
It's me again.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, I'm listening to your comments.
Mm-hmm.
But I might have a question or two for you.
Okay.
Good. While it's good and dandy to see what's happening and everything is haywire going up, but can I ask you this question?
Mm-hmm.
People like Arden McLean and Ezra Miller,
mm-hmm.
if they were in power, do you think that all of this overwhelming construction into this island, things that are going on that the whole island is talking about, do you think that this would not be of a slower pace of development and a more prudent thinking? Let's get it now.
Well, not necessarily, because just because they're in office doesn't mean that they're in power, first of all, if they're not part of the government. And secondly, what did either one of them do when they were in office to stop construction or big business? Because you're saying that basically they stood for, were they anti-development? I don't think that that's the case. No. In fact, let me stick a pin right there, right? You know, right now there's a battle afoot in relation to the National Conservation legislation, National Conservation Act, and the National Conservation Plan. I heard it through the grapevine recently that both Ezra and Mr. Arden, and you know, either one of them can call in and say, Sandy, what you heard through the grapevine isn't correct. But I heard it through the grapevine from extremely reliable sources that both of them were coming through in support of changes to the National Conservation Act so that the country can put through the East-West Arterial and do all this other stuff without the need for any sort of environmental impact assessment. They haven't done it yet, right? But there were discussions afoot, and they had promised that they were on board with the government in order to lend their voice to the government's position that, yes, we need to get rid of this National Conservation Act. So you might want to rethink what it is that you're saying, because don't swear for people now when you don't know, in terms of what their position would be about all this development and construction that we have going on. Well,
I would say this. You hear it through the grapevine.
See, hear what Nick Foster just said. He said, yes, Arden and Ezard have said mangroves don't vote. They are for development.
I would take that with a grain of salt. I'm not saying that it wasn't said.
Okay.
I'm not saying that it wasn't said, but I will stand on what I say. Mm-hmm. Arden and Ezard are very much environmentalist people that wants to see the development in this island going in the right direction. And you say
that based on what? What was done in the past that makes you think that?
Thank you very much. In the past, there was not a slaughter with acres and acres of mangroves being knocked down. That's in the past. This is what I'm saying. You know what's happening to this island? We are on nothing less than a runaway train. Oh, the more development. Look what's happening on the 7 Mile Beach, all over the island. These people are coming in here, like Trump talk about on the north or south coast of America, where all of these people are coming in. No control. Why do you think that you're having all of this upheaval and shootings and accidents and all of that? Too much undesirable people, and I will repeat, too much undesirable people in this island. And my opinion is those that are in authority couldn't care less. Bring them in. Let's get the money. That's the most important thing. Okay? That's how I see it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So, yeah, so thank you so much for
I
listening to me.
appreciate
But
it.
again,
Yes.
like I said, nothing against who's representing East Center and North Side, nothing, because I think Jay and the other guys probably doing a good job. But God Almighty, look what's happening to this little island, the best place now, or used to be the best place in the world. And if it's not corrected, what we're going to have in the next 3 to 5 years, one of the most undesirable places to visit. Come on. The traffic jams in the people, and they have no manners, no respect, no nothing. If you had took a pile of wild pigs, excuse me, and put in this island, you would have been for the head, because at least you could eat the pork. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you, my dear. Yeah, I mean, you know, listen, we can only look to you know, someone said that the Arden laid down in front of a bulldozer to stop the port in East End, and I don't have any doubts that that is true. But I'm also curious as to, and we can go back to the Hansards and see how they voted and what their position was in the commentary that they would have made umpteen years ago in support of the National Conservation Act. How are they going to stop development? You know, you don't stop development because one or two MPs say, well, they're not in favor of it. What I think actually happens is that because there's no major management plan as an entire country, there's no growth management plan. It is a free for all, and God knows from a planning perspective, everything gets rubber stamped and everything gets approved. There's no directive from planning to say, okay, in 2025, we will only have so much of West Bay open to development. And if people get their applications in and, you know, subject to certain criteria, we're not going to approve it. So there's no directive, if you will, from the political arm in government. Here's the other thing. How effective is either Ezzard or Arden going to be if they're not part of the ruling party? So unfortunately for Arden, you know, him and the PPM parted ways. Oh God, I can't even remember how long that's been, but that's been donkey years, because he discovered how duplicitous Alden and the PPM actually were, right? So he parted ways. So Arden was a minister, and he was the minister, I forget what year that would have been, but it was when the CUC contract was renegotiated and a couple other things. That was at least 16 years ago, at least. I couldn't tell you when the last time Ezzard was a minister. I don't even know. When was he a minister? It has been a minute. So you put those people in the way that our democracy and parliamentary system works, they can't stop development. They can't do very much of anything if they're not part of the ruling party. For the past 12 years, prior to the current 4 electoral years that we're in now, the PPM were in power. And neither one of them were really part of that team as such. So what do you expect them to do? How would they be stopping development? Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Sandra. How are you doing today?
Not bad. How you doing?
Good. Backtrack a minute, but then to correlate it immediately back to what the present subject matter is. I just want to say, for me, it's the big picture, not you personally, as it pertains to the CNS article and that discussion, which was hard.
I got your point entirely. Trust me.
Yeah. I'd also want to take the opportunity to direct your attention, and the rest of Cayman, to a previous article on CNS regarding their efforts to identify the mystery landowner that's quoting the actual article, of the lands around the proposed port over there in Breakers, and the issues that CNS themselves are having.
It's
and
not,
have
listen,
okay. Projected.
Can I just ask you a question? Because of course I don't read these articles. So I actually don't know what you're talking about. So you might have to fill us in. But
I think it's something that's relevant that you might want to take the opportunity.
Well, it seems to me that Wendy might want to get her own show in Bobo, because then she can talk about these things. And I'm just saying.
I think that's the ultimate point that I was making with you and the rest of Cayman, Sandra, is that your platform is the bigger picture, that you are the only platform we here in the Cayman Islands have for either investigative journalism or bringing forth stuff that is held from the general public. And that is the real big picture concern that I have. And that's actually why I'm bringing the subject matter to you. And it is because, you know, the once again, the opaqueness as see-through as a recently stirred up mud pond or marl puddle that we have to contend with here in Cayman when it comes to just getting basic information such as the landowners in any given issue. Because I am fully aware that there are people who, for the last couple of years now, have been buying out tracts of land because they are part of, whether you want to call it a billionaires network or old boys club or whatever it is, who know the stuff that is coming down the pike. They're making these deals behind closed doors in smoke-filled rooms and X, Y, and Z.
Yes.
Right?
I mean, let me say this, Jonathan.
The rest of the Cayman public, but it's something I think that we should look at. You, me, anybody who cares about Cayman and that lack of transparency which exists. So, moving on from that.
Hold on one second. Let's just stick a pin right there before you move on too quickly. I mean, there are rumors afoot, even in relation to this East-West Arterial. There's a company that owns a large parcel of land that has people that have interest in it, includes our Minister of Labor, former MPs that were his colleagues. And so for full transparency, those individuals should indicate whether or not that is the case, because that might explain why his position is let's just bulldoze through and not care about the environmental impact, none at all. John, let us know if you are part of any organization or any registered company that has land holdings where anywhere near where the East-West is going to go. And basically your land has been landlocked. This company has been landlocked. And now by the opening of it, you and your colleagues, your former elected colleagues, are going to be able to throw up hundreds of apartments and become, as you rightfully said, millionaires as a result of that. There's nothing in theory wrong with it, but the people deserve and have a right to know.
Of course, I agree with you 100%. Not a right to know, but a need to know. One major player that you neglected to mention just now in that grouping is Dark, who has a spider's web of companies in the tens, possibly hundreds, which they utilize due to the system that we have here to sort of direct attention away from the Dart emblem itself. And of course, there's these multiple different companies that they have, which are land holdings. And it's identifiable. It's actually in the article. Some of them are listed, and that is the fact of the matter. So this lack of transparency points, Sandra, to the overall overarching big picture problem that we have with all of this, which is the existence of greed, special interest, and the illegitimate allowance, the undue allowance of people with massive wealth, massive power, and influence to underhandedly use subterfuge and use the vehicles which are afforded to them because of the largesse that they have. Go under everything and then pop out on the other side. You speak about the gentleman previously spoke of the issue that existed when Mr. Imperato and with Mr. Makiba Bush as his political henchman was trying to introduce a port there where Shetty Hospital is now. And I do remember writing that people should be very cognizant of the fact that we should be aware that this is more probably than not a red herring in the first place, in that we're going to do this and blow everybody's mind up with this idea. But in reality, we have something else to shunt through, and that's actually what happened. Now, that's not to say that Health City is not a benefit to the Cayman Islands overall. But, one thing my father told me in the past, and others have said, it's often it's not what you do, it's how you do what you do. And when you use deception to do something, then you really poisoned it from the outset. You see, the site where Shetter Hospital is now is different when it comes to a port from the standpoint that if a port had gone in there up in East End by Lover's Wall there, that would have severely threatened the largest freshwater aquifer in the Cayman Islands. And of course, water is the one thing that no life can be sustained without. So if that had been allowed to be destroyed by influx of salt water, that would have been a huge problem. The Breakers site is not a part of any freshwater aquifer in our country. So that concern as it pertains to that particular suggested site that's not a factor in the overall equation. And the questions writing thing is that the people can't even know, okay, because these companies are using, I believe it's Hampson, to hide their actual identity. Okay, and it allows people to be misled, to not be honest, to be disingenuous, to hide their actual motives from the general public on a matter that can and will affect the entirety of the country. You know, this idea and the shell game that Kenneth Bryan has been playing as it pertains to talking about bringing forth this port in Breakers idea, and then immediately coming back and speaking about the cruise port, the cruise berthing facilities in Georgetown, connecting them without actually saying that he's connecting them. Right? Speaking of bringing up Cayman's population up to 250 or whatever insane number that they're talking about, all with the backing, of course, with the Cayman Islands Chamber of Commerce. Now, we're talking about a situation and a scenario, Sandra, wherein we have a single lane road going from the Western District to the Eastern District. Okay? We're talking about a situation and a scenario where all of the cargo in the Cayman Islands would then have to effectively travel on those roads from Breakers to Georgetown to be transported to their final destination, to their clients, to their customers. Okay? Not only does that not make any sense logistically, but it is also the way that Cayman has been forced and subjugated into dealing with things. Its lack of infrastructure, which includes the argumentation against the east-west arteria, right? There's a long list, Sandra, of reasons why we need the east-west arteria. Okay, one of which is when a hurricane time comes, that South Coast Road is always going to be badly affected, particularly in Bordentown and those areas right there. Once you get up over the hill and where the Cannon House is, all the way down, that whole stretch is going to be badly affected and effectively cuts off the eastern districts of this island. Secondly, we cannot expect to have all of this aggregate moving to and from East End, from the quarries or Breakers or Peace Bay, down that single lane road and not expect the cluster ... that we have in the roads, particularly as you're trying to travel through Bordentown and other ways, right? So these necessities are there. The lack of infrastructure is what needs to be considered first and foremost above all, but instead, greed, personal interest, and undue and illegitimate influence and profiteering is what is being allowed to continue unhindered, unmitigated, okay, as a result of what we're allowing to happen and to continue to happen here in the Cayman Islands. It's
all right,
wrong.
Jonathan, we do have another caller who's patiently waiting.
No, I have other stuff to say, Sandra, but these are all correlated things.
We do have another caller who's also waiting. So you've been going for almost 12 minutes.
I will wrap it up by saying this. As I sat in the meeting in Northside, and I noticed that with the NRA, when they were talking about the environmental impact assessment, and they had their large group of people there on the stage, I did certainly notice Ezard, the Arden, John, a couple more, noticeable lack of the presence of the then Premier, Mr. Panton, at the meeting. I thought he should have been there. I was disappointed that he did not attend. Very disappointed. On the left side of that hall in Northside, right? And then on the right side, there was the environmental activist group. One side was saying one thing, the other side was saying the other thing. And the reality that I came away with was this. The true needs of the Cayman Islands people are being bashed and banded about by one group of extreme over against another, when the reality is lost. The gentleman spoke about the standing up against what was the issue back then. And by the way, Mr. Kenneth Bryan, at first, he was on the side with PPM calling Mr. Kurt Tibbetts big man and all of this. And then, of course, he switched his topic.
Jonathan, I need you to wrap it up. 13 minutes now.
Sure. However, when you have a group of people of big money in big mansions built on top of recently desecrated Red Mango estuaries, who are now going to try and turn around and say the rest of Cayman that they don't have the right to have a road, that they have to sit in traffic for the next 3 hours every damn morning. But they can get it. They can do what they want. God can destroy X amount of hundreds of acres of mangroves to build his little empire, but Caymanians can't. There is the real problem. And on the other side, we have the politicians with their own objectives and their own self-interest. The Cayman people are the ones losing out.
Thank you. Leave me there.
We'll talk later.
All right, my dear. Okay, next caller. Good morning.
Sandy?
Yes, sir.
It's me. What is it I was described as? You're number one. Like somebody described me on CNS as suffering from Stockholm syndrome, and you have me under your spell.
Oh God.
I thought that was hilarious, but I just wanted the world to know I disagree with you all the time because I think you're crazy half the time. But you're brave and you're brilliant, and you make the best brownies in Cayman, even though they sometimes come up dry up. So I will continue to defend you because you provide a valuable service to the Cayman community, and people are just bad-minded and jealous because they're not doing it. But as you say, the internet is free, and everybody who has a lot to say should start their own show.
Yes, because I'm even fighting for their rights to say nonsense about me. Isn't that ironic?
Yep. Right. But that's why I called in. You know, the previous caller had a lot to say, and I just wanted to say to you that as a person with a law degree and who's done the PPC and all the rest of it, I think it's a dangerous path that we're walking as a country if we now are quick to draw the conclusion that anybody that forms a company to hold assets is involved in some level of subterfuge or impropriety or potentially illegal activity. Mm-hmm. You and I both know the principles of company law. A corporate entity has a separate legal personality from you as an individual. So if individuals or businesses choose to register a company and then hold assets in that company's name, that provides them a level of legal protection if and when something goes wrong so that they're not personally liable. I just think that, you know, the lack of understanding and the rap or the swiftness in which we try to levy some form of negative connotation when people are merely exercising their legal rights. Because let's face it, Cayman has a financial services, especially offshore jurisdiction. If forming companies and holding assets in a company's name was illegal, we wouldn't be doing it. So how is it that you, me, elected officials, old ladies, young men, young women, anybody that forms a company in order to protect themselves, I'm quite sure Cayman Mar Road is its own separate legal entity. Therefore, are we now to conclude that based on those things that were said, that you are potentially involved in something nefarious and some subterfuge because you had something to hide? I think we are compelled, you in particular, and you do a fantastic job, whenever people come up with things that are blatantly wrong and make absolutely no sense just to spread dissension and blackguard people's name, I would ask you to use your talents and use your legal background to set the record straight, because that caller made it sound as if anybody who has a company and holds anything in that company name is potentially trying to do something untoward. And it's just a mechanism of protecting yourself from any unfortunate or any liability and legal sort of actions against you, whereby you are protected in your personal capacity, and the corporate entity then becomes the sort of subject of it all.
Yeah, so let me clarify what I was understanding the caller to say, and certainly what was in my mind, right? It's not about trying to, I mean, any of us who've done corporate law will understand the protections that the corporate veil allows you to have. That isn't about stripping the corporate veil unnecessary and trying to expose beneficial owners in a legal entity. This is about our elected officials. Listen very, very carefully, folks. This is about our elected officials who know and have insider information, which would in the United States of America be considered insider trading, and they would not be allowed to do, right? They know of certain projects that are being considered, certain things that are being done, and then they make business decisions to benefit themselves and to enrich themselves around that, and they support certain projects and certain political initiatives to help to flourish and enhance their own bank accounts. That's what this is about. So this is about people who didn't historically have this company formed, didn't have this land, but because they have connections in NRA, because they've been government ministers before, and because we've been talking about this East-West arterial, God knows long enough, they have now gone and grabbed up all these parcels of land around where they know the track will go, and seek to now unduly enrich themselves. And this is the most important part, because listen, you could argue, and you could make a very, very good argument that people do this every day in the world of business. There's a bit of speculative purchasing and buying, like, okay, this area of the island is going to get developed. I'm going to go out there and buy tracts of land. That's what sensible business people would do. I don't have any argument against that. What I have an argument with is that politicians who then turn around and say, well, we don't want to do the environmental assessment study. We don't want to do this. We don't want to do that, knowing that they have a direct pecuniary interest in us putting that road through as quickly as possible, because they've got these large tracts of land that are now going to be developable. That's a word I totally made up, as a result of the East-West going through. And they don't actually inform the people of that. That's where I think we have a problem. So if John would come forward and tell the truth and say, yes, me, I'm just going to throw out some names, just random names here.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Say me and my other former political colleagues have this parcel of land and we've invested in this land, blah, 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 blah. Because even amongst themselves, look at what happens when they get it wrong, right? When they think some of their own colleagues have business interests and they don't do their homework and they don't do all their due diligence. Remember the thing with Blue, what was it called? Blue whatever, medical supplies, the company that Randy Marin owns, and the whole LFT situation? I forget what it's called, Blue something. Anyway,
Blue Water.
And remember how the ministers and cabinet were convinced to vote a particular way because Chris Saunders lied and told them that Wayne Panton had ownership in that company? You see, these things become relevant. And he didn't want Wayne Panton to be unduly enriched because of that. So don't give it to them, because Wayne Panton's company, come to find out Wayne Panton has nothing to do with Blue Waters, none whatsoever.
No, the final point I was going to make, and I understand exactly where you're going, and I understand the concern about present or former elected officials. But Auntie Sandy, the infrastructure or the pyramid of success in Cayman is built off of public officers, primarily senior civil servants, who have effectively used that inside knowledge, shared that inside knowledge with their friends. Mm-hmm. Friends form companies, and then somebody's holding shares somewhere. On their behalf, the best way to solve those issues is to have the Public and Standards Life, the Anti-Corruption Commission, financial crimes, and all of the other regulatory agencies do their job, because the allegations that are made because I just don't like Sandy, Johan, or anybody else. They can damage a person, they can damage a family, they can damage a business. So instead of spouting off at the mouth on radio, go and make a formal complaint to somebody official, have an investigation go through, and let the chip and trust that the process works, or if it doesn't work. And if the process doesn't work, then come back, because it's reckless and irresponsible to say Johan and Sandy bought 400 acres of land in
I agree. And that is why, again, we need elected officials who believe in complete transparency, because I shouldn't have to go lodge a complaint against them to even find out whether or not, they have ownership in these companies.
Sandy, I will say this in closing. The good thing about Cayman's system is the electoral system. We have proven that it works. Like, the country gets the government and the elected officials that it chooses and it deserves. But the only persons that are held accountable in the governance model are the elected officials. Chief officers are incompetent. There are some chief officers that are incompetent. There are chief officers that are disingenuous. And I'm talking about chief officers, deputy chief officers, CFOs, and they are not held accountable. They don't lose their jobs. They waste hundreds of millions of dollars annually, or they mismanage a budget, and nothing happens to them. But we focus in on the 19 elected officials. If we're going to have a system where we're holding people accountable, let's hold everybody involved in the process accountable, starting from the very top down to the people that are responsible for the administration and the execution of the projects, because we know we can remove a MP. We do that every 4 years or so in a general election. But the system still fails because the civil service is not world class. And some of the people that are involved at the highest levels are nothing short of incompetent, dishonest, disingenuous, and they're connected because who their data is.
Yes, thank you very much, Johan. All right. So here is the difference, though. Yes, I agree with a large part of what Johan had to say, but elected officials, because of the position that they have, the influence that they have, right, have a greater responsibility to the general public. That's why they are required, unlike civil servants, they're actually required to register their interests for this whole standard public life registration. They're the ones who are required to register their interests because they have too many tentacles here, there, and everywhere. And the ability, as we have seen in the past, to influence developers, to get a payback in the back of their pocket, talking about, oh yes, that's a consulting fee. I'm going to tell y'all something, and y'all might not like this, but as a business owner and as someone who has been interested in elected office, I have a very, very strong position on this. Once you become an elected official, you should be stopped from involving yourself in the acquisition of certain things whilst you're an elected member in this government. Because the as we talk often about, the perception being this, that, and the next thing, the possibility of you being able to influence and to get things done to your own benefit and to the detriment of the people of this country is far too great. And you should have no active participation in any company that you actually have ownership in. If it was me, I would actually divest my interests in these companies as well, because we're paying you handsomely to be focused on the business of the people of this country on a full-time basis. We don't have time for you to be engaging in any other extracurricular activities other than your full-time job. So you can't be running the local ice cream shop and the local coffee shop and this, that, and the next thing, having a security company at government. This is a perfect example. How on earth is John, the Minister of Border Control, able to have a security business at government and get those contracts? Y'all don't think that even has the appearance of being a little bit sus? And how his invoices were being paid under when he was part of the PPM government, right? And the Minister of Tourism, then Mr. Moses Kirkernels, would direct the Cayman Airways and the CIAA staff to pay the invoices for John, and don't ask any questions about the scheduling, because they're like, wait a minute, we didn't have a flight come in at this time. Why is he charging us for security service? Don't y'all worry about that. You just pay the bill. The minister's company has submitted the bill. Y'all just pay it. You see, this is the kind of foolishness that should never be allowed to happen. And who's going to investigate that, Johan? I'm just saying. Caller, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Auntie. How you doing?
Not bad, dear. How are you?
Right, yeah, not bad myself. Yeah, you're touching on what the question I was going to ask. If these MPs are allowed to have business, I thought they used to divulge or give their business up from time to get into office. That's how it was years ago.
No,
so I don't know how come that changed. Yeah, well, that's
and I mean, look at, of course, and look at the situation. Again, he is a minister who's breaking labor laws himself, and nobody in his government is holding him accountable. Everybody turning a blind eye to the fact that the minister owes all kind of people pension, insurance, and he has for years, and yet he's a minister of labor. You can imagine. Talk about accountability. No,
yeah, no, not corruption. That's first class corruption.
Exactly.
That's what's going on. Clean and simple. Plain and simple. Yeah, that's what I want to ask you. But you don't answer the question. That should never be allowed to happen. Though they shouldn't have their business. So I don't care whoever justifying that, because they're just keeping a monopoly amongst themselves and getting business. They're working. In other words, they're not working for the people. Then they work for themselves.
Yeah.
Because everything I got a spin-off business, coming to them, or they got somebody out there that is in the same line of work and say, "Boy, I give you this buck, but you just got to throw something my way," and all that kind of stuff. All that is still going on, so the country not gonna get better until you get rid of all of these kind of people, you know. So yeah, all right, then later.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, this to me is extremely egregious. When you think about it, right? No government minister should have any dealings with a company that is in arrears. And look at how he benefited from it during COVID, right? When his government, including him, voted to give the pension holiday to everyone. People in arrears like him should not have been able to take advantage of that, but he surely did. And he stopped paying people that he had owed pension for all 10, 15 years. I mean, it is amazing to me, the slackness that we permit to happen in this country. We want to talk about accountability, but yet there are glaring examples of it like this, where the system is obviously being abused and nobody says anything about it and nobody does anything about it. The people in his cabinet should be holding him accountable. They should say, John, you cannot be a cabinet member until you get these arrears up to date. If he has to go and borrow a loan, I'm sure Julie got 1.4 million. She could loan him to get all his pension liabilities up to date, because that's against the law. Why isn't he in court? The man is breaching the laws of this country, and he walks around high-chested and can host events and put on parties and all kind of foolishness. Use that money to pay your pension arrears. And to Fresh Joe's point, because I was coming to that next, why do you think the minimum wage never got approved? Because people like John's company would be one of those companies that is actually impacted directly by any increase in the minimum wage. So of course they wasn't going to approve it. Go check and see what he paying his workers, those security guys, see what they getting paid at airport, and see where that falls below the minimum wage. There's too much slackness going on. And while Johan's point is, well, we all need to go file these reports, who's actually taking the time to file the reports? And there's no accountability. These agencies don't need a report for them to see what's going on. Why hasn't DLP hauled in the minister? Why is Mr. Donovan and others still waiting for their pensions to be paid after all of these years? I reported this back in, God knows, I think it's like 2009, about the minister being in arrears for how long with pensions. And his then PPM government, the PAT government, and the now UPM government, nobody is holding this man accountable. Apparently he lied, and the previous premier should have known better, lied to him that it was dealt with. It not dealt with. And he's not the only member, oh Lord, He's not the only member that's in there who's doing this kind of shenanigans. Even Minister Isaac, look at his company, had complaints going into the last election. I believe they were paid up. Same sort of thing, not paying staff. Somebody had to get up and do a video, show pay slips and all kind of stuff to demonstrate what was going on with his company. Y'all can't be in the business of wanting to be politicians, elected officials who are responsible for the drafting, not the drafting, but responsible for putting forward legislation to protect people in this country. And then you turn around and allow your own companies to breach those very protections. And yet the people still sit down and vote you into public office. The people also have no sense, because they're not thinking about, wow, if this person is non-compliant with this, what else are they up to? We kind of started this segment talking about the necessity for people to be real and authentic, right? How can you be the labor minister? You should be advocating for fairness, advocating for the laws that we have on the books to be followed. And you yourself and your company is not doing it. This is the elephant in the room. And my problem is we have too many elephants in the rooms these days that none of us should feel comfortable with the government that we have. Look at the same thing with the premier and what she did in relation to that land in the BRAC with that gentleman, I forget what his name is now, Mr. Scott, right? Who had never paid his mortgage. And he sit down and walk, cry, hard times and mia and whatever. In what world do y'all get to go borrow money from banks and don't think you must, and government bank at that, and don't think that you must pay back a loan? And then when you don't do it, the government, your elected official, wants to come and selectively bail you out? Talking foolishness about, oh, she has plans for the land. Why isn't she moving on the plans for that land, as opposed to taking $50 million from the public purse to build a school that we do not need? You notice that you're not hearing nothing about what those plans are to expand. She's talking about she expand a cemetery and this and that. How come we don't hear anything about her trying to fast track that development? You know why? Because she never had any intentions of doing it. She came up with this very creative idea to purchase this man's land, have him never repay a government loan. So now CIDB is in the red again on another loan, bail this man out. We purchase a loan, probably purchase the land, probably overpaid for it, knowing what I know about the situation, under pretenses. And we think that these people mean us any good. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Sandra. How is Gigi?
Morning. Oh, she's getting better, my dear. Hopefully she'll get the lug cast off on Wednesday.
Yes, she will. She'll bounce right back. Remember, they're young and all that sort of thing. Sandra, you're hitting the nail on the head. Mustn't forget McKeever Bush down here with the real estate company and the gardening companies and God only knows what else. But yet, we the people that it's supposed to be blamed for all of this, because we keep putting the same people back and pulling a big salary. What are they doing with our money? With our money? And then you hear about 22 people hired for months and months and months for the mental center that was our institute, whichever one you want to call it.
Let me give you a bit of good news. I understand. Now, you know, I'm not putting my neck on no chopping block for them, but I do understand that they're supposed to get the CO this week for the Point Siena Center. So keep your fingers crossed, honey.
Well, that is good news, because it was supposed to open last year, and then last year in November, and this year in March. It can soon be another March or soon be another November. Nothing is done. Yet I've seen this place, and 3/4 of us gonna soon have to go there ourselves if we put under any more stress from our so-called representatives. It's a beautiful place. Get it open. It need to be open. Yet we're paying 22 people, maybe more than that now, for months and months and months of salary. Those people that's supposed to work there, that's not their fault. We all know that. That's not their fault. Get the bloody thing open. Anyway, Sandra, if we listen and understand what is really going on in this island, like I say, to have to build more mental places for us, because what's going to happen to our children? I don't have no young children, but so many of my friends do, and grandchildren and whatnot. What is going to happen to them? What kind of example are we setting for them?
Thank you, caller.
You know?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Sandra. Keep it up.
Thank you so much. So, I mean, this is a hot mess of a situation. Believe me when I tell you, we, the people, have to, quite frankly, demand better. You know, I think that these MPs have gotten used to the people not demanding any better, and for a long time, continuing to accept their slackness when election time comes around. They give you one little piece of turkey and one little ham, buy you a little this or that and whatever, make all kind of fake promises, and you jump right on board. Buy you a beer. Some of y'all are so cheap that the only thing it takes, I was just getting to that, Miss Shirley, the only thing it takes is a little free liquor. I mean, I cannot believe how cheap y'all going for. I mean, my God, I think I always say to people, I said, listen, everybody has a price. If somebody tell you that they can't be bought, they're a damn liar. Let me come off the radio now, because I might say one or two little words, but I got to wrap up and get to my physio appointment. They're a goddamn liar if they tell you they can't be bought. The difference is you need to set your price at such a rate that you become untouchable. Right? So I have people all the time, oh, Sandy, here they'll come buy you out before the election. And I said, oh, yeah? I said, that's good. Tell them the selling price for CMR is $50 million. Because you know what? Nobody not going to pay no $50 million for CMR. So you set your rate to a ridiculously high number so nobody can't buy you. Not no 1.5 million, not no 2 million, not no 3 million, not no 5 million. Put it at $50 million and then tell them to come and talk to me. You don't walk through the door with less than $50 million and it better be hard, cold cash. And then you know, nobody not gonna do that. Sandy, you mad? Good. I'm mad, yes. Because we're not for sale. That's how you make sure you're not for sale. Good morning, caller.
Good morning again, Sandra. I need to respond to Mr. Johan's comments, please.
All right, make it quick, honey child. I gotta go to my appointment.
You got it, girl. First of all, I just want to state this unequivocally. I have noticed time and time again, whenever you are about to hold certain politicians accountable, you always see Johan come on there and tell you must hush, or oh, he could have died, or this, that, and the other, particularly last time with John situation. Right? I noticed that I have seen this happen multiple times. Now, I know the business that Johan is in the financial services industry. And my takeaway is this. First of all, Johan spoke just now about our electoral system being one that works. That is ludicrous. It's laughable. And it's tragic that he would actually come on here and say that. You ask us here in the Cayman Islands, do we really think that it's working? The electoral system we have here is basically akin to a whorehouse. Okay? And we all know that. It's not working, Johan. Okay? We do need changes to be made. Now, pretending for maybe his own political or personal experiences that it is not helping the Cayman Islands or her people. As it pertains, and this is my humble perspective here, as it pertains to the financial and services industry, I believe that those like Johan are more interested in the well-being and the interests and the vehicles of financial secrecy afforded by said financial services industry than he is actually, in all reality, concerned with the future, the medium term, and the present day well-being and the interests of the Cayman Islands and all of her people. I think that is the real reality here. Now, I asked Mr. Panton a pointed question in that regard. Mr. Panton himself disagreed. That's fine. Mr. Panton is a practitioner within the financial services industry. Now, my personal opinion is this. It is one of the the major tower and foundation of our present day economy. However, the reality is that that foundation is faulty. We speak of an economy and sustainability. Our economy is not sustainable in the least. And it all goes back to the same recurring argument about development, overdevelopment, development. For who? Okay, if you want to look, if we're going to look at the reality of overdevelopment, who is it for? It's for people coming here.
Yes, I did tell you I got to be in time for my...
need the 15, 20. Each person needs to wipe their bunk here as a services industry. So the same people who are complaining about environmental destruction in Cayman are the same people that all of it is for. Yes. The same people complaining about quarries, they're the same people who needed to build up their swampland so they can build their mansion and cut off the Caymanian who want to build a little 2-bedroom house for them and their family.
Okay. All right, let's continue the conversation tomorrow. I got to be on time for my appointment, honey chair.
You have a great day, Miss Sandra.
The therapist, thank you. The therapist has I was told he has a full schedule today, so make sure you get there on time, Miss Sandy. All right, got to go. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll continue the conversations tomorrow. Yesterday, we obviously, today we didn't have an opportunity to get into the whole fight debacle, but don't worry, that's coming tomorrow. So please tune in, and yes, we'll get that going on tomorrow's show. All right, see you guys tomorrow, honey chow. Have a good and beautiful day. Toodaloo, toodaloo.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Cold Hard Truth on Bobo 89.1 FM. Cayman's #1 talk show is live weekdays from 7:30 a.m. Never miss an episode again. Watch anytime on CMR's Facebook and YouTube channels for the latest show episodes. Don't forget to follow us online on our social media channels. And visit CaymanMarlRoad.com for all the latest news and community happenings.